And then from that, began to have some serious conversations about, hey, how is your personal health? How is your spiritual health? What does that look like? And then I was then able to grab a couple of them and start meeting with them and talking with that and getting deeper. Like, hey, you're a leader. You're killing it on stage.
Yeah.
But backstage, what's happening in your life? And that's really what's going on with that. So our soul care does have a couple components. Yeah.
If you lead anyone in ministry, at work, in your home, or anywhere that life puts you in charge, this season of the Worship Catalyst podcast was made for you. Over the next few episodes, we're sitting down with my good friend and seasoned leader, Lane Wood, for an honest, practical conversation about one of the most overlooked essentials in leadership, and that is caring for your team. Together, we'll unpack like 25 proven ways to keep your team healthy and thriving, and how to truly care for diverse personalities and generations on the same team, a bunch of non-negotiable ways to care for yourself so that you don't burn out while pouring into others, and a lot of other real-life stories, hard-won wisdom, and actionable steps that you can use starting tomorrow. No fluff, no wasted time, just what you need to lead well and finish strong. So let's get to it. Here's my good friend and your guide for the next few sessions, Lane Wood.
Glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
How you been, man?
Man, I'm doing well, doing well. It's a busy time of year ministry, but doing well.
Hey, so we need to learn a little bit about you.
Yeah.
Because you've been leading worship for, more than a day or two.
Ooh, yeah. I'll ignore that comment as far as that goes. Yeah. So I moved down here. I'm a worship pastor at a church in South Florida. It's called Park Ridge Church. Moved here about 5 years ago from North Carolina. So the difference between a North Carolina church job and a South Florida church job has been a big change, but it's been great.
Hey, now this has nothing to do with our topic today, but what are some of the biggest differences between Southern and then South Florida? Because South Florida is like this flip, right?
Yeah.
Like the farther south you get, the more northeast you actually get.
It's true. Yeah. People here, when you tell them that you came from North Carolina, their first question is why. We're trying to get to North Carolina.
Yeah, okay.
Like, what are you doing? So the biggest thing, first of all, man, is the cultures down here are amazing. Yeah. Every single person is from a different country, different area, things with that. So you immediately notice the diversity with that, both in my church, my cul-de-sac where we live, going to the grocery store.
Yeah.
So that's the first thing, man. We're in North Carolina, man. A lot of the people, my street, everyone went to the same church, looked the same, talked the same. Yeah. Everyone's a Christian, according to them, supposedly. Right. So it's a lot different.
Because they're not something else.
That's exactly right.
And they live in the South.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
So now you had a little season where you were doing some touring and singing and stuff like that too. Talk about that for a second.
Yeah. So really coming out of high school is when I began touring a little bit. Got on a couple regional tours, traveled, wrote music, Christian rock. Doing some things
Christian
like that.
Rock,
yeah.
Did you have striper hair? Did
man,
you do that?
I would have loved. I did more of the striper clothes, not the hair as much.
All right. Was it tight like that? Tight and flashy?
Gold and black.
Bro,
similar.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's great.
Do you have any pictures? Because I would love to see.
I do have some pictures. They are they're funny pictures. I have some. Yeah, there may or may not be some clips online too that you could find and look up. My kids are starting to find them now. Which is
sweet.
Which is hilarious.
Nice.
Yeah,
okay,
man. So I did
Lanewood.
that.
Search for Lanewood.
Search for Lanewood. Yeah, my band was one way. And then we changed to Severely Yours.
Severely
That was
yours.
the rock name, yeah.
Wow, that is so yours.
That is
incredibly
amazing.
yours.
Yeah.
Severely.
Absolutely.
All right, man. So here we are. We're going to talk about caring for our team.
Yeah.
Now, a year or two ago, you and I started talking about this phrase, soul care.
Yeah.
Okay? And so I want to unpack that in this episode because I've been hearing that phrase or those words a lot more over the last few years. But let's just figure out what that is first, because maybe it's a new thing, maybe it's a new language on an old thing, or maybe it's something totally new. When you think about soul care, what does that mean?
Man, it's so interesting. I had never heard this term before I moved down here. And it's probably come around a little more since COVID, to be honest with you, right?
Yeah.
Really, when we read Mark 8:36, there's this verse we know that says, Jesus says, what good is it for a man to gain the whole world, yet forfeit his soul, right?
Right.
So immediately we're seeing Jesus say, look, the most important thing you have is your soul, right?
Yeah.
As believers, we know that. So this idea of soul care is then saying, look, how are we taking care of the most important thing that God has given us? And that's sort of what's happening with soul care. There's a lot that comes into that, but that's sort of the emphasis of why we're talking about it.
So as you start to mentor leaders or care for their souls or whatever you call it, disciple, I don't know. Or do you call yourself like a soul carer?
Soul care discipler masterman.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, what a long phrase. It needs an acronym or something.
Right.
But what are there parts of it? Are there like components of soul care? What are those?
Yeah, it's interesting, man. There are different components. It depends on how deep you're going, right? So the first step, sort of like when you're discipling someone, is to identify a couple of people.
Right.
So for me, since I'm becoming a little more seasoned, as you mentioned earlier with that, and being in a new area, the first thing I did here was to try to connect with other worship leaders. I love doing that, right? So as I developed some relationships, I began to understand a little more about who these people were, what churches they're from, their ages, their experience. And then from that, began to have some serious conversations about, hey, how is your personal health? How is your spiritual health? What does that look like? And then I was then able to grab a couple of them and start meeting with them and talking with that and getting deeper. Like, hey, you're a leader. You're killing it on stage. But backstage, what's happening in your life? And that's really what's going on with that. So our soul care does have a couple components.
So you said their spiritual life, their family life as well.
Family life, your physical health.
Physical health.
Yeah. The main components of it when we're really thinking about it, your scripture engagement. What is your scripture engagement? Like that's important. These are things we know, but
nobody's ever asking you.
Right. You don't get it asked a lot, right? And sometimes, honestly, our disciplines are lacking. So you've got that. Your targeted prayer life. Like what are you praying about? What are you really petitioning to God about? Then number 3, another component, rejoicing. Like, are you rejoicing?
Okay.
We hear that term at Thanksgiving, right? We tell our people that. We sing songs about joy and things like that. But are we truly rejoicing?
Love that.
And then the last one is giving thanks. Like, sort of going along with rejoicing, but are we giving thanks daily? Like, first thing we're waking up, what are we thinking about? Are we giving thanks to God and things like that? So those 4 components, if they're healthy, then your soul is going to be healthy.
I want to ask about how you actually do that.
Yeah.
Okay, like specifically.
Cool.
But before that, this doesn't sound like a process that you take every single person on your team through. You've really identified some people.
Yeah.
So what's that process like of just saying, who is it that I'm supposed to pour into versus who am I not in terms of soul care?
Yeah, that's a great question. That's a great question. So I'm doing it 2 ways, first of all. One way I'm doing it outside of my team, sort of mentoring other leaders in the community, right?
Yeah.
But specifically on my team, and I know we'll talk about this in a later episode, like identifying, again, who my team makeup is. I have a very diverse team, both in personality, in age, in from where they're from, things like that, right?
Right.
So I'm identifying these people, getting to know them, and then I'm taking 2 or 3 at a time just to walk through with them.
And how long are you walking with them?
It varies. So like with discipling, we do want to have an end time on it. And then the goal would then be for them to sort of replicate it. So a little bit discipling as far as that goes, but there's not a perfect formula for it. So for us, it's once a month, right?
Yeah.
But then there's checkups in between. Like I don't believe in a one and done. I believe in still like some text, things like that. We've got it right here, checking in on them, but that once a month.
And so is there like a written out process that you take people through, or is it more, a little loose on that? How does that work when you talk about the physical and the spiritual and the rejoicing and all of that?
Yeah. So I identify those things with them first of all. We don't necessarily, we don't necessarily come to them with a sheet of paper and like check it and text it, but they know these are the areas I'm going to be asking you about, and I give them permission to ask me about it. To be honest with you, like as your leader, as your pastor at your church, whatever. I want you to know I also struggle with these things, and we walk through them. But I'm trying not to make it feel like a classroom. Like there have been some times that I've been involved in teaching this stuff, like in a formal type of environment. But for these, I want it to feel very personable, very non-rigid, because that's when these conversations start to evolve and relationships deepen to where you realize, hey, man, there's some stuff they need to work through.
Right.
That's what's beautiful about it.
How long does that take to get to that, you think?
It takes a couple sessions for sure, man.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah. And like for me, the benefit, so that's especially with people outside of your team, right? So like I'm actually legitimately cold calling worship leaders and being like, hey, this is going to sound crazy, but I know that you're aware of some of the larger things happening in our city. I'm a worship pastor up the road. I would like to meet with you and a couple of guys and just no agenda. We're not talking about music. We're not talking about chords, whatever, anything like that. It's literally, and I toss out what soul care is. It's literally to just shepherd our souls together.
You cold call worship leaders.
Yeah.
And is it like, hey, I'm Lane. I'd love to care for your soul. It seems like a strange.
It's a crazy thing, man. So I like to start with texts and emails because I think people can process a little better with that, And then I usually will say, and I do this even when I'm calling like a church member or a prayer request comes in.
Yeah,
I can set it up that way, give them some info, give them a website if I need to for what I'm talking about, and then say I'm going to call you tomorrow and let's talk about it. But usually I also include in there, hey, I'll take you out to coffee with it, or we'll grab lunch and it's on me. And that can get them there as well, especially some of the younger.
You
leaders,
buy food. All
Absolutely.
of a sudden, their soul is open for for business.
You buy me coffee, I'll be there every time, man.
So it seems a little simpler to me to identify and to ask questions around how someone's doing spiritually.
Yeah,
we're kind of used to that in ministry, maybe a little bit more, and physically seems really simple.
Sure.
But when it comes to rejoicing, how do you identify in yourself or in someone else whether they're rejoicing or not?
It's asking a lot of the questions about what's making you tick. What are you passionate about? You can really quickly get into someone's life and find out how they're feeling, right?
Yeah, right.
Really quickly, these conversations a lot of times, very, very frequently get to the point of, man, I'm feeling so burned out at work.
Right.
I'm feeling so underappreciated. I have no help, whatever it is. And you can see there's no rejoicing. There's no thankfulness. So that's when then we can start to say, hey, I recognize that. I see this. How can we twist this to now we realize that, hey, God has blessed you, given you so much. Yeah. Even in hard times, you can still rejoice. Again, Scripture says, again, rejoice.
What's the difference between rejoicing and thankfulness?
That's a great question, yeah. Rejoicing is more giving praise in any circumstance, right? So going through these hard times, saying, God, thank you for bringing me these hard times. We see this in Scripture, right? We see Paul saying, hey, I'm glad for the trials I'm going through. Yeah, so taking these times, these hardships, and saying, God, thank you for them. Sustain me in them. And then giving thanks is just being more grateful for the things tangibly right in front of you.
Okay. Why does this matter to you? I mean, you're investing a lot of time and energy into people, a lot of whom don't even go to your church. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Why do you care so much about this?
So interesting, man. I went through a season before I moved to South Florida, and I was lacking in this, right? Again, I did not know the term soul care, but I had some transitions in a church, never planned on moving from North Carolina, these kind of things. And I desperately needed someone to pour into me a little bit, right? I had some guys I could call on, and I knew I could call and be like, hey, I'm going through a tough time. Can you hear me out? Things like that. But not really someone in my field of ministry that could come alongside and say, look, I actually know what you're going through, both from a work standpoint, like what ministry day-to-day looks like, but also I understand that your soul is lacking and that you need someone to come and lift you up, hold your arms up, sustain you in that. And so sort of because of my experiences, I've got a passion for doing that for others right now, both on my team and outside of the team, because we need it. We need it.
So what kind of results have you seen in people, or what is that value that you've been adding in soul care?
Yeah.
How are you seeing that change people?
Man, it's so interesting. What I'm seeing is a massive increase in humility, vulnerability.
Wow.
Just realness.
Yeah.
Like we've all been in situations where it just seems so many people have an agenda, right? Like you're puffing yourself up. You don't want to show that you have any flaws or any struggles. Man, what I'm seeing down here where I am specifically right now, people just openly talking about things they're struggling with.
Yeah.
Openly realizing that, hey, there are no turf wars. Like we're really fighting here as local worship leaders and pastors and churches overall to not have turf wars, to not steal from other churches, to put it that way. Like I saw a lot of this in the South. I did.
Yeah.
And now we're saying, hey, we want to come together. We want this place to be healthy. And a lot of this, honestly, it was birthed out of maybe 10 or 15 years ago before I was down here. There was a huge just group of moral failures happening in multiple churches.
Right.
So some of the other leaders and other pastors recognizing that sort of started this movement, and it's now flowed into worship leaders and worship pastors. Like it's inundated coming together with that.
It seems to me that there's because in South Florida, you've got 10% of the people are Christians maybe?
Yeah, something like that.
Okay. And in South Carolina, North Carolina, everybody thought they were...
Right.
I don't know what the percentage was, but it was a normal question, right, to say, what church do you go to?
Yeah, for sure.
That sort of thing.
For sure, yeah.
And so it seems like churches can go one of two ways. And it's interesting you say that they're becoming more vulnerable, more connected, more humble, more maybe kingdom-minded. You're not putting that phrase there, but
Sure.
I'm kind of interpreting it that way. Because it seems like in a 10% Christian environment, and we work with leaders all over the world, it goes one of two ways. And we're talking with pastors and worship leaders that are, 0.1% Christian environment sometimes,
Right.
And it goes one of two ways. Either you become more connected to other Christian environment or Christian churches and leaders because you need each other so bad, because every day you wake up on mission. It's like, I don't care if we have little doctrinal differences. We're all generally on the same page.
Right.
Let's go conquer the world, right?
True. Yeah.
Or there's such a spirit of fear because I have to hold on to the people I actually have that we don't want to connect with any of the rest of the congregations or leaders because that's threatening, because we're living in scarcity mentality.
Right.
So how are you seeing soul care speak into that conflict?
Yeah. Well, man, part of it is because in some of these soul care cohorts that I'm developing with these other leaders, we're now sharing resources, right? We're cross-denominational.
When you say resources.
So everything from people on our teams. So like it's very normal for me to get a call on a Friday or Saturday and say, hey, can you send me a keyboardist? Can you send me a guitarist? My bassist has the flu, whatever, and vice versa, right?
Yeah, sure.
This is cross-denominational, man.
This is awesome.
I love this. So we do that. We share instruments, man. We collab and do worship nights all together.
Yeah.
We're doing one tonight. Like this happens constantly. So we're breaking down these turf wars. Like I think a lot of us just don't have time for it anymore, man. Maybe some of us had been there. I was probably there 15 years ago a little bit. Like we said, holding it in. These are my people.
Sure.
This is my church.
Right.
But man, as we're getting older and further along in ministry, we just realize that's not what Scripture teaches us to do, man.
That's right.
We need to be together in ministry. Primary issues are the big things. Secondary, tertiary things are not that big a deal in the scheme of things, right?
So do you think there's any leader, any worship leader, any pastor that is not a candidate for this process of soul care?
I don't think there is. I think that there are some that need to be taught, right? And gently instructed and maybe even pointed out a little bit of, hey, you've got some areas that you need to push aside because that church is not your church, it's God's church, right?
Yeah.
That, to put it bluntly with that.
Right.
But I think every worship leader, every pastor is a candidate for soul care for themselves and then training others and teaching others about soul care. 100%.
Does so it seems like accountability is a little part of this.
It sounds like it's a part of it. It is a part of it.
It sounds like it kind of happens more organically though, rather than systematically.
Yeah, it's not like you meeting with one of your dudes and just saying, "Hey, I know you're struggling with this. Let's talk about it." Now, if that's revealed and they say, "Hey, I want you to keep me accountable," yeah, and so naturally, soul care can go that way, but it's not supposed to really be an accountability group, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It can trend that way a little bit.
So I know everybody's got time constraints and things like that. So how many people do you think you can legitimately have and you do this in groups, right?
We do it in groups, yeah.
And so how many people can you legitimately, A, in one group, or B, as a whole, can you care for 20 people at one time, or 7 people, or Jesus did 12?
He did, yeah.
But anyway.
Yeah. Well, we're not Jesus, right? Right. Nah,
11. We can do 11.
We could do one less.
Yeah.
Man, it's a good question. You don't want to have so many people that you can't give space to talk, right? And space to grow in that. So that's why then we're trying to identify several other experienced guys to take these cohorts and develop them. So like this part of the county, recognizing what churches are there and calling them in and asking, sometimes asking the lead pastor if that's their model and being like, hey, would you send your worship leader to meet with me? I'm like, I'm not asking for anything. Literally just want to care for their soul. And man, when a lead pastor hears that, they're first of all like, wait, why? Number one. But then 2, that's amazing.
Yeah.
100% will do it, right? So I think a good group is honestly 3 to 6 range with that.
Okay.
That's a comfortable range.
And so it sounds like you're spending a lot of your energy and effort on worship leaders that are not as a part of your church. They're in other churches and things.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely have a lot of time with my team, right?
Yeah.
These are also coming outside of that once a month. My team is different. Like, we're seeing each other more regularly.
You've got more of an automatic built-in consistency.
There
with
is,
them.
yeah. And there's more even one-on-one with my team, I'd say. Like, we're getting coffee, we're
So
talking.
what's the value? So, I mean, people are, listening to this podcast and they're going, I got my hands full.
Sure.
So what would be what would you say to them to say, no, you need to reach out beyond yourself?
Dude, it's sort of like you said, man. This kingdom-minded mentality means we're getting outside of our own people, right? When we do that and we see it, you begin to see so many needs outside of your community. And when other churches are strengthened, other leaders are strengthened, when you're in partnership, it flows into your people.
Right.
And the people that I follow know this. The people that I lead on my team, they see it and they know it. So then we're bringing these people in together. Mm-hmm. Sometimes I'll bring them in and they'll lead on my team on a Sunday, and they're knowing that these are people we're meeting with, things like that. So that's what's beautiful about it, is teaching the mentality of not keeping everything just close. Mm-hmm. That's really what it's about.
Yeah, if you have a castle-minded church that's thinking more about your church than the kingdom,
right?
It's because the leaders think that way.
That's exactly
and
right.
they act that way. And so this is a great way of just demonstrating kingdom to your people and helping them see what this is all about.
Absolutely.
That's really beautiful.
Yeah.
So let's say that you're a worship leader and you're thinking, I should probably get my soul cared for. Like, what do? Do you walk up to some other worship leader and say, "Hey, can you care for my soul?" Like, what would you recommend?
I know, it sounds so creepy that way. It really does, man. It really does. I think so. I think a lot about like Lane 15 years ago. Like, I think you identify, and it's tricky. Some people are in a super rural area, or there's not another church near them, right? That's like-minded, even with that. But I think you get on the phone and you call someone. Everyone's got someone in ministry that's a little further ahead of them that you can call. And it's vulnerable at first to say this, but you need that kind of care. We all need it, man, no matter how old we get. My lead pastor here talks about it. He's like, dude, we never need to stop having an older mentor and a younger mentor. We see it modeled in Scripture, right? Someone to pour into, someone that's pouring into you. So the first step is not saying that, hey, my soul's good. The first step is saying, no, I actually need soul care. No matter how good I think I am, do it. Call somebody.
Would you go as far as saying, if you're not getting your soul cared for, don't care for other people's soul?
Yeah, I would.
Because you might be putting in them something that's not healthy, I guess.
Exactly right, man. Yeah, we reflect that.
So how does that work for you?
We reflect
as someone who pours into so many, how do you get that?
Man, that's such a good question. So I have older mentors that I talk regularly with, both on my staff and outside of my church. I think that's important. I think it's nice to have someone on your staff if you've got it. But to have someone sort of outside of your flock is super helpful.
There's no connection.
Right, man. Right. You can be real. You can say whatever the heck you need to, man, and it's really good, right?
Right.
There's that kind of thing. So that's a big thing with that. Dude, honestly, my wife and I have, I'm married, and my wife and I have, over the past years, done a couple of things like marriage conferences and retreats, and literally not, even in seasons where we're not unhealthy, but just to strengthen our relationship. And I used to be against this, honestly. I was sort of the guy that's like, man, I'm good. I'm the one telling people this. But as my wife has forced me, as other leaders have sort of challenged me, it's been the best thing ever for my soul.
That's so good, man. Well, I can see it in you, man, because I think this is a nice church. I don't know how big your church is or whatever, but it's a great place to be. You're in an awesome neighborhood, awesome church, all the facilities, all the stuff, everything you need. Like, you've reached that level of like most people want to get to, because very few worship leaders are full time, right?
Right.
And you have this privilege and this great place, and yet I recognize that humility and that grace in you, and that must be because you've opened yourself up to let other people pour in. And I think that's awesome, man.
Yeah.
That's so good, bro. Well, Lane, thanks, man, for episode 1. We'll be back with more, of course. That was really good stuff. And I know a ton of leaders are walking away from this conversation with fresh hope, because they feel like they need something, or even if they don't, hopefully they will. And thank you for hanging out with us today. In 2 weeks, we'll be back with another episode that you've been waiting for. And this is like 23 or something proven ways to keep your team healthy, united, and firing on all cylinders. You do not want to miss this. You'll want to watch it over and over again, in fact. If today's conversation strengthened your leadership or encouraged your soul, would you consider partnering with us? Every dollar that you give to worshipcatalyst.com/give keeps these episodes coming and helps more leaders just like you. No pressure, just gratitude in advance for whatever you can do. We'll see you right back here in 2 weeks. Until then, lead well, love people, and take care of the people that God's entrusted to you. See you soon.